lot of people call Jeffrey Dahmer racist because he ate mostly black people. Kind of a compliment, right? Kind of a huge compliment. He could have consumed anybody. He loved black people, okay? He didn't want anybody else. He loved them too much, if we're being honest. You know who he didn't eat? Jews. He didn't have any Jews, not one. I'm pretty upset about that. You're gonna eat 140 people and not try one of these guys? That's textbook anti-Semitism. I'm more upset that he didn't eat Jews than I am upset he ate people, if we're being honest. Although I think it makes a lot of sense why he wouldn't want to eat Jews, right? It makes sense. We're pretty easy to overcook. San Francisco, how are we doing? Nice, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm glad to be doing this here. I've actually been living in San Francisco for about 6 years. I feel like everyone has like their favorite thing about San Francisco, right? Unpopular opinion, mine is without a doubt our parking enforcers. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the meter maids because I noticed on the side of the meter maid's little cart, there's a disclaimer in red that reads, assaulting a San Francisco parking enforcer is a $2,000 fine. Yeah, I think that's very appropriate because assaulting any other human being is immediate jail time. Not bad. Not bad at all. Even the city of San Francisco is like, they're not really people. They're not actually human beings. As long as you have a great disposable income, you can beat the shit out of our parking enforcers with impunity. Yeah, I read up on the statutes. Fun fact, if you have $10,000, you can fucking kill them, okay? Yeah, it's only half a month's rent. I highly recommend. Highly recommend. If you have $12,000, you can hit their dog. Yeah, you guys don't like me hitting a dog. I just murdered a parking enforcer, and we were all on board. Park enforcers are beneath dogs. We do have some weird things in the city, though, right? We have some weird laws. Like our last district attorney, he made it where people who smash car windows cannot get arrested, which I didn't really care about that until my car got broken into. I'm like, this is a serious problem. My stuff's missing. I need justice now. Can't make this up. The same DA had another initiative focusing on penalties for pronoun misuse. Oh, yeah. Real thing. And for the record, I want everyone to be called whatever they would like to be called, but pronouns never broke into my car, so my priorities lie elsewhere. I'm also kind of wondering now, how's it going to look the next time I catch someone breaking into my car? I'm like, officer, he went that way. Go get him. The officer was like, whoa, pal. We don't know how these criminals identify. Now you're in trouble. You called him he. I'm like, you just called him him. We're both going to gender fluid jail, okay? They're going to lock us up and throw away the key. Biggest problem in the city is probably homelessness, right? Big problem? Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, it is. I actually try to give money to the homeless when possible. I think it's funny how people rationalize not giving money to the homeless, right? Because it's always the same excuse. They're like, well, I can't give him money because he'll just spend it on drugs, exactly. But what would you spend it on if you were homeless, right? You guys aren't homeless and you're all on drugs. If you're homeless, that's the only thing to buy. There's nothing better. If you're homeless, buy drugs. You know what makes sleeping on concrete a lot easier? Heroin. Heroin makes it a lot easier. Heroin is the thing to purchase. Fun fact about heroin, if you do enough of it, any surface is Tempur-Pedic. Okay, that's a fact. It's a fact of the drug. I don't give money to all the homeless, though. We have some scary homeless people. Yeah, like some of them look like a boss in like Elder Scroll. You ever see those? They're always wearing like a quilt because it's an extra 80 armor. If you look them in the eyes, you gain 25 experience points. The worst with the homeless, though, that I don't like is when people get mad at them when they don't accept their food, right? We've all seen that before. I got a late lunch with a friend of mine, and we were leaving the restaurant, and we walked by a homeless guy. A homeless guy was like, hey, can I have some money? My friend was like, no, but would you like half of my sandwich? Homeless guy politely said, no, thank you. And then as soon as we turned the corner, my buddy was like, can you believe that homeless guy wouldn't take half my sandwich? I'm like, yeah, I can believe it. It's 2 p.m. He already had lunch. What are you talking about? If you're homeless, you're not hungry all the time. They're not bears pre-hibernation. I'm like, would you take food from a stranger? He's like, no, I would never do that, but I'm not homeless. I'm like, okay, it's a double standard, right? It's not fair. Could you imagine if your boss treated you that way? If your employer treated you like a homeless person? It's your annual review. You're like, I think I'm due up for a raise. They're like, well, we would love to give you a raise, but we know you. You're just going to spend it on drugs. We know better than that. We give you money. That's drug money. We won't do it. We will not give you a raise or a bonus, but would you like my half-eaten sandwich? It's like, no, not at all. And employers do that. That's what a pizza party is. They do it all the time. If you ever got a pizza party, your boss thinks of you as a homeless person. I've had some bad jobs in my day. My first job out of college, we didn't have very good healthcare benefits. The only healthcare that we were offered was through Kaiser Permanente. Not ideal, yeah. Some people acknowledge that. If you don't know, Kaiser Permanente is a health insurance company, but they also own the hospital and they employ all of the doctors. And if that sounds like a conflict of interest, that's because it is. It's not good. They're for profit. They only hire the cheapest doctors. And when you sign up for it, they let you pick your doctor online. There's not one good one. I looked through all of them. There's not a good one. When I had it, I ultimately, I looked through everybody. I went with this woman who graduated from NYU, pretty good school. Also went with her because she was Asian. Let's not judge. It wasn't because she was Asian. It's because all the other doctors were like white dudes from Nebraska. You know, that's, like, I don't want a doctor who believes in God. Does that make sense? You guys are starting to follow, you get it? Even if you're Catholic, you don't want a God-fearing man as your... You don't want to go into surgery and see the surgeon like... Lord, grant me the strength. You go to your doctor, he's like, it's either chlamydia or the devil. Okay. You leave with a prescription for an exorcism. He's like, thankfully it's not herpes. That is much more permanente. But I had a female doctor for the first time, and I went in for my physical with her, and ladies, you may not know this, big part of the men's physical is the doctor. They like feel your balls, they grab your nuts. Usually with a glove, not always, depends on the doctor, but I went in for the physical with her, and we got to that part of the physical, and she made it really awkward. It wasn't cool at all. We got to that part, and she was like, we are going to do the testicle exam next. Do you want me to bring in a male doctor for the testicle exam? I'm like, why would I want you to do that? I think you're the right person for the job. I think you're gonna do just fine. She doubled down. She made it weirder. She made it way worse. She's like, you know, most guys choose male doctors. Kind of inferring that I chose her specifically for the testicle exam. Which, for the record, I did not. I'm like, do you not want to do the testicle exam? She's like, I don't want to, but I'm not opposed to it. Which is consent, so. Got the consent, it was good. It was a quick testicle exam. She finished, I finished, we both finished. We both finished the testicle exam. Shared a cigarette in the lobby afterwards. It's a good time. It's a good time. Funny thing about the testicle exam, though, is that you don't only get that as a man. They give that to you as a boy. Like when you're a child, you get the testicle exam from doctors. I don't think we give pediatricians a hard enough time about that, right? That's a pretty core part of their job is feeling boys' balls. Every other profession of medicine, we judge them for the medicine they chose. Like, if you ever meet a male gynecologist, 10 out of 10 times you're gonna be like, oh, you must love pussy. Like, that's always what you do. And then there's pediatricians, and we're like, nothing to look into here. Nothing at all. I guess they just love kids. Hopefully not too much. I think about this more than you guys do. That's obvious. And there's a reason for that. That was a weird time to take a sip of water. You guys are just imagining the worst. Like, did you get molested by a pediatrician? I did not. But my pediatrician throughout my whole childhood, he was like a really like jolly guy. He was always really happy to be there. And I wish he turned that off for the testicle exam. It's kind of weird when you're in a room alone with a grown man. He's like, all right, let's see those testicles. Yoink. Like, that's not... He didn't wear gloves. He was raw dogging it. He was one of those doctors. He wanted to feel them. There was one time, it was pretty weird. I was like 9 years old. I had like trouble taking my pants off. He undid the zipper for me. Yeah, with his teeth. It was fucked up. It was a weird testicle exam. I wasn't even there for a physical. I was there for strep throat. He's like, we can't be too sure. Cough, it is strep throat. Look at that. It is strep throat. I've been in a pretty good mood recently. I recently got out of a random roommate situation. Random roommate situations rarely go well. This was not a good one. I had 2 random roommates from Craigslist, 2 people, one of whom was a full-on coke addict. Yeah, I knew that he had a problem because I do coke 3 times a week, hard minimum. Absolute hard minimum. I do exactly as much cocaine as you would think by looking at me right now, okay? Yeah. Any guy who wears this much jewelry, there's cocaine consumption involved. If you look like the prequel to Uncut Gems, you're probably doing drugs. You're probably doing them. But I don't think that cocaine consumption is what defines an addict, right? I think it's how you're doing it. What's the setting for this cocaine? Right? They're not all equal. Like when I do coke, I go out with my friends, I drink, I have a great time. My roommate, he preferred to do cocaine by himself at home and just impatiently watch reruns of The Office. Yeah, I found out cocaine for sure makes The Office less enjoyable. That's a fact. I just get home from work every day. I'm like, how was your day? He's like, pfft. Are you seeing this right now? I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's the problem? He's like, the problem is that Jim and Pam aren't together yet. Like, okay. I don't even know them. Relax. We had this weird game we would play where he would text me every Friday at 1 a.m. while I'm trying to do the healthy thing, cocaine with other people. He'd text me, he's like, hey man, I got a great surprise for you when you get home. Like, it's not a surprise anymore, Mike. You got coked out and rearranged all of our furniture again, okay? And it did not look good. Only a coke addict would remove the ottoman from the living room. That's what's going on in his head. Second roommate, not much better. She was from Italy, and the only phrase that she would say in English was, that's crazy. Which is fucking crazy. You can't communicate with somebody who only says that's crazy. And she was very bad around the house. I don't know how people do things in Italy, but on more than one occasion, she had forgotten to turn the gas stove off after cooking dinner. Leaving the gas stove off, pretty dangerous when it's right next to an ottoman. Very dangerous when it's next to an ottoman. But I'd wake up, I'd see the burner is on. I'm like, Julia, you forgot to turn the gas stove off again. She's like, what? That's crazy. I'm like, it's not crazy, you stupid whore. We're gonna burn to death, okay? We're gonna die. This is not Italy. Our house is not built of lasagna. We're gonna perish. We're not gonna turn into an entree. It's good though. I have a new roommate. Now. New roommate's a cool guy. I feel very safe at home. He's an ex-Marine. He served 5 years in Iraq. Yeah, no one gives a fuck about the troops here. She's not one woo. Everyone's just like, ugh, we never should have been there in the first place. He didn't choose to invade Iraq. He just served his country. But I've gone out with him, and I've noticed something really rude that people do to him, and they do this to other veterans, is when they find out that he served, they'll ask him, oh, did you ever have to kill anybody when you were overseas? That's a pretty rude thing to ask somebody, right? You're basically asking him, hey, did you ever have to do the worst possible thing that could happen to you on the job? We don't do that with any other profession, not one. Like, I've never met a firefighter been like, oh, you're a firefighter? That must be crazy. Have you ever seen somebody die in a house fire? He would probably explain to me, yeah, they left the ottoman next to the stovetop. I've never met a dentist. I'm like, you're a dentist? That must be wild. Have you ever caught your wife sleeping with another man? It's the number one issue in the dental industry, okay, guys? I've done my research. My dentist tells me all about it. He's like, you need to floss more, you need to brush more, and my wife's a whore. I'm like, okay. I think a filling and a divorce are in order here, sir. A lot has happened this year for me. My grandma turned 96. Woo! Yeah. My grandma gets way more applause than the veteran. That's good. That's good. All she did was live. Yeah, 96-year-old grandma, which means that my grandma is, anyone shout it out, there's no wrong guesses. Old, pretty good guess. Racist is actually the most correct answer. And it's funny because, like, the rest of my family, they like try to like judge her for her racism. They try to teach her to not be racist, but I give up on that. She was born in 1928. How many people born in 1928 are not racist? There's just one. It's Bernie Sanders. He's the only guy. He's the only one. Also, selfishly, I don't judge her for her racism, right? Selfishly, I don't judge her. Because if I made it to 95, I'd want a grandkid like me, right? I'd want grandkids who don't judge me based upon the time in which I grew up. Because I'm not a bigot right now. Right? I'm not a 2024 bigot. But I'm pretty sure if you drop this dude in 2088, he's not a chill guy. I don't think I'm a good guy in 2088. I can see my grandkids being embarrassed by me. They're like, get a load of Zach. He still believes that genders exist. He still thinks there's men and women in the world. He's out of control. He called himself a guy the other day. He's unhinged. I'm stuck in my old ways. I'm like, I am a guy. They're like, no, you're them. Grandpa, you are them. They can't even call me grandpa because that's binary, right? They have to call me something stupid like Grand X. I'm like, don't call me Grand X. That's retarded. They're like, whoa, Grandpa, you definitely can't say retarded. That wasn't okay when you wrote that joke. Like Tard X, fair enough. Tard X is what we'll go with. It's funny, my grandma, I love her. She'll say racist things that sound awful when she means well. She means well. She's not saying it negatively, but it sounds terrible. She doesn't know the right terms anymore. My cousin a few years ago, he had an Asian girlfriend, and my grandma met her, and she really liked her. She liked her so much that she called me after meeting her. She's like, Zachary, you have to meet Jonathan's new girlfriend. She is the nicest Oriental you've ever met. I'm like, that's not good. That's not good at all. I don't think she'd be the nicest if she heard he dropped the O-bomb. But the worst part of that conversation, though, is like I was so taken aback by what she said, I wound up sounding way more racist than her on the phone. I'm like, what do you mean he's dating an Oriental? She's like, he can date an Oriental. I'm like, that's not what I meant. Stop saying Oriental, okay? Stop saying it. Also, of course he has an Asian girlfriend, right? We're Jewish. Jewish dudes love Asians. I don't know what it is. It's just how we're oriented. I do hope that at least like his girlfriend had like an offsettingly anti-Semitic grandma who liked him, right? And called a different family member and was like, "Oh, you have to meet Jonathan, nicest Hebe of all time, just quality Hebe. He's phenomenal kike, if we're being honest. He took us to dinner. He tipped 25%. He's one of the good ones." It was a sunny day. He controlled the weather for us, okay? He's a good heave. A little bit more about me. I'm single. Single people make some noise. Hell yeah, we got a lot of them here. I'm single, but I'm in a weird spot though, because I realized that I can't do one-night stands anymore. I've cut them out entirely because I realized that I have bad one-night stand manners. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I stay over every time. Every time I stay over. The thing is, I only do comedy at night. I have nothing to do during the day. I stick around, okay? I stick around in the morning. You have to ask me more than once to leave before I'm out of here, all right? This is my house now. I get very comfortable. When I was 26 years old, I had a one-night stand with a 39-year-old woman. We're hitting it off at the bar. She's like, should we go back to your place? I'm like, are you fucking crazy? You've owned a home for 8 years. What are we talking about? You have a mortgage. I have roommates. There's a clear answer here. So I stayed over at her house, and in the morning, I've been there a while. It's like noon. I haven't even gotten out of bed. I'm like Charlie's grandparents from Willy Wonka. I'm tucked in. And she was trying to get me to leave without directly asking me to leave, which you have to do better than that to get me out of there. She's like, what do you have to do today? I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what I have to do today. I think I'll check out all these extra bedrooms you bragged about online. That's what I'll do. She's like, well, I have a lot of stuff to do. I'm like, oh, I won't be in your way. Eventually, it was like 3 o'clock, and I'd like run out of things to talk about. This slipped out of my mouth. I'm not proud of it. I'm like, this is kind of crazy, right? I'm 26, you're 39, you are exactly 50% older than me. Yeah, she also wasn't amused. She's like, get the fuck out of my house right now. I'm like, all right, once my clothes are done in the dryer, I'm out of here, okay? This is the last load of laundry, I promise. I like the early part of dating, though, like dates 1 through 5. That's like the best part, right? It's very exciting. There's a lot of like emotional volatility, especially with texting. I get caught up in that. Like I'll go on like, if you're like a guy, like you go on a nice date. That's how it goes. You go on a nice date, you have fun. You text her the next day. You're like, oh, I had a great time. We should do this again sometime. She doesn't get back to you for an hour. You're like, I guess she didn't have as good of a time as I did. She doesn't text you back for 2 hours. You're like, I hope she doesn't text you back. I don't want to date somebody who doesn't get back to me within 2 hours. She doesn't text you back after 10 hours. You're like, what kind of heartless bitch doesn't text somebody back within 10 hours? Then you get a text the next morning like, hey, I also had a great time. Let's do it again. Like, oh, she might be the one. She might be the one. I've gone on some bad dates though. I went on a date not too long ago and everything was actually going relatively well. We were about a half hour in and then she referred to herself as a Disney adult.
Oh God.
Yeah. We split that bill. That's not what I'm looking for. When did this start, the Disney adulthood? Like, it's ruined non-romantic relationships for me. It's ruined non-romantic relationships. I had no idea that my cousin was a Disney adult till I visited him in LA. I got there the first day. He's like, do you want to go to Disneyland? I'm like, no. Why would we do that? We don't have kids. He's like, no, you don't get it. You can drink there. I'm like, there's a lot of places you can go to drink where you're not surrounded by kids on leashes. What are we talking about? He's like, dude, you don't get it. They have a lot of Asians. I'm like, we can go to Disneyland just this once, okay? We could go to Disneyland once, Jonathan. The Asians love this joke. That's good. I can see you. I'll tell you guys about the worst date. Don't turn to the Asian guy. It doesn't even apply to him. He's a guy. We're not at Disneyland for him. I'll tell you guys about the worst date I've ever been on. You ever go on a first date with somebody and at minute 0 you're like, I fucking hate you. You just know right out of the gate, you're like, this is a shitty person with whom I don't want a relationship. I met a woman off of a dating app, and we made plans to meet at a bar. I got there, I texted her, I was like, hey, I just got here. She replied, she's like, cool, I'm parking, I'll be there in a couple minutes. Very nice. And she showed up, and the first thing she said to me, she was like, not gonna lie, I'm pretty fucked up right now. Yeah. I kept it real. I'm like, but you drove here. What? You drove drunk to our date? She's like, I can't believe you would confront me about driving drunk. I'm like, I can't believe that you would kick our date off with a felony. That's what we're doing now? Good dates end on drunk driving. They don't start with it. So we sit down, and it's already not going well. She doesn't like me, and I don't really like her. And we're struggling to find things to talk about. Eventually, we started talking about our favorite drugs. Because I brought it up. She likes a good felony. I want to impress her. I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah, I like mushrooms. I like ketamine. She's like, can we drop it? Can we not talk about drugs? I'm like, sure. We don't need to talk about this at all. 10 seconds goes by, no conversation. She's like, I did a bump before I came here. I'm like, what? You did cocaine before our date? She's like, I had to drive. I'm like, yeah, I'm the fucking idiot. I'm the fucking idiot. When you would do coke, drink, and then drive to our date. She's like, I have some. Do you want a bump? I'm like, this might be a good date after all. This might be a very good date. Yeah, I went to the bathroom. I did her cocaine so I could drive home safely. That was the right call. She wasn't wrong about everything. I did do her coke in the bathroom, and I thought that would be like an inflection point on our date, right? Like, she's on coke, I'm on coke, great conversation coming up. Nope, not at all. Not at all. I got back from the bathroom. She's like, do you believe in dinosaurs? Oh, I'm sorry, is that not a fucking crazy thing to ask somebody? I have 100 people looking at me like, do you? She wasn't even religious. She was just a regular idiot not believing in dinosaurs. I'm like, do you think that they existed? She's like, yeah. Do you think that dinosaurs walked the earth? I'm like, let's go with yes. Let's go with yes. Some of them even flew the earth, you stupid idiot. You ever heard of a pterodactyl? She doubled down. She was like, Jurassic Park was not based on a true story. There is a huge amount of middle ground between those two things. I'm like, yeah, neither was Transformers, and you drove here successfully. And Optimus Prime would never fight the Decepticons drunk, okay? He's way better than you. My least favorite dating app is Bumble. Bumble, for those of you who do not know, is a dating app where the women have to message the men first. And I'm sorry, ladies, you do not have a fucking clue how to start a conversation on dating apps. Women have two methods. The first one is my least favorite. They will match you, and then they will message, hi. Just hi, not how are you doing, how was your weekend, nothing to work off of. I do the right thing. I just say, hey back. And we have a mutual agreement to never fucking talk to each other for the rest of our lives. What I've seen women do instead is let's try to ask some weird question, hoping that it leads like a longer, better conversation. This is a real message I got off of Bumble. This woman was like, hey, Zach, if you were trapped on an island and you could only bring one book, what would it be? I'm like, the Island Survival Guide, you fucking idiot. Are you kidding me? What other book would I want on the island? I don't think I'll have time to leisurely reread of Mice and Men. I'm trying to eat mice to survive. I watch a lot of TV. I like true crime a lot. I like that and legal shows. I watch a lot of Law and Order. Any Law and Order SVU fans here? All women, all the guys are like, I don't need to see what we do. Not we, but like men, It's weird though. I've been watching Law and Order SVU my whole life. My entire life I've been watching Law and Order SVU because my mom was always a huge SVU fan, so she always had it on the TV. And looking back, it's probably not too healthy to be 5 years old and watch a few hours of rape every night with your mom before you go to sleep. Probably not the healthiest thing for a 5-year-old. I was into it. I'm like, pop the popcorn, Mom. We got a child molester this episode. It's going to be a good one. Now I'm in danger. It applies to me. Get the Diet Coke. He's got a good defense attorney. This may be a two-parter. We're going to want to stay up for this one. It's crazy, though. I still watch that show, And the show has barely changed. They have the same cast, and they stick to the same script, but the script doesn't match the cast anymore because they've gotten so much older. And I'm talking about Olivia Benson specifically. For those of you who do not know, when the show started, Olivia Benson was like the young, hot female detective arresting these sex crime perpetrators. And she would use her good looks and hotness in the interrogations to get confessions out of them. It wasn't even good writing. She'd be like, we know that you committed the sexual assault. He'd be like, yeah, and I'll do it to you. That was every episode. Every episode. They couldn't help themselves. She was too hot. They had to confess immediately. But now the show's on like its 35th year, and they stick to the same script, and Olivia Benson's almost 60 years old, and she looks like shit. She looks terrible. She aged like milk. It's not good. They stick to the same script and it doesn't work. Now she has him in the interrogation room. She's like, I bet you wish you could break out of those cuffs right now and rape me. He's like, no. I would never do that. That's disgusting. I would never do that. He elaborates. He's like, I'm a rapist and I wouldn't do it. She's like, you're a rapist? He's like, yeah. She still gets the confession. She's a hell of a detective. One show that came out about a year ago that I really liked, did you guys see the Dahmer show on Netflix? Yeah? I thought that was a good show, because I learned a lot about Dahmer that I didn't know. I didn't know that he ate 140 people. That's a lot. One thing that was pretty surprising was he was in like very good shape. He wasn't fat at all. I always thought logically, if you eat somebody, you double in size. Right? Doesn't that make sense? Calories in, no calories out. But I also learned in that show that he was murdered in prison. I didn't know that. But I think we can all agree it's a good thing that Jeffrey Dahmer was killed in prison, right? Yeah, two people nodding. Everyone's like, I was actually hoping you get early parole. That's what I was hoping for. But he was killed in prison, and that's mainly a good thing, because had he not been killed in prison, he otherwise would have gone through death row. And I don't know how much you guys know about the death penalty, but before they put you down, you actually get to request a last meal. Of your choosing. They have to give it to you. They can't kill you until you get your last meal. That would have been pretty awkward for the prison guard that had to be a waiter that day, right? It's like, all right, Mr. Dahmer, what's it going to be? Just one moment. There's so many good options on the menu. Anything you'd recommend? Chicken Caesar's pretty good. Not much of a veggie guy. Or white meat, for that matter. Oh, you know what? I'll just have the gay black guy. I'll have the gay black guy. Well done. It's not even a menu he's flipping through. It's just the prison directory. I'll have Jamar. That sounds lovely. I post a lot of jokes online. Comments can be weird. I get some good comments, some bad. I got a comment recently that I don't know how to interpret. Somebody commented on one of my posts. He was like, hey man, love your humor, very funny, keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna make it in this business. Like, that's such a nice thing to say. Then I looked at his username, and his username was, and I quote, _ the N-word is not offensive. That's not good. That's not good. That's my fan? That's not the fan that I want. I'm like, what joke won over the N-word guy? At what point did the N-word guy scroll through my feed? He's like, I like this guy. We're very like-minded. He's great. I went into his profile. Profile picture was Donald Trump. Not surprising. But it was pretty interesting, though, because it made me feel in that moment kind of like Donald Trump. Like in the election when they were like, hey, Donald, you have KKK supporters voting for you. Do you denounce support from the KKK? And Donald Trump was like, I could really use the votes. Like, hey, Zach, do you denounce the N-word guy as a follower? I'm like, he likes all of my posts. I don't know. N-word guy's pretty kind to me at the end of the day. The worst part is someone else commented, they're like, you're a lousy comedian. Their username was all cops are bastards. I'm like, great. Now I have to pick a side? I went with the N-word guy. He's much kinder to me. I had to block all cops are bastards. He's too mean. I am a pretty progressive guy, though. I was raised in Arizona, which is a red state, but my dad is actually the most liberal guy that I know, which is cool because we're very like-minded. But having a liberal dad has its own set of issues. Like, he's gotten so progressive now where I can't even share good news with him anymore. I can't share good news with him. He's too liberal. I can't do it at all. I told my dad this year, I'm like, hey, Dad, I have good news. I maxed out my Roth IRA. He's Jewish. He should love that. That's great financial news for a Jewish father to hear. He came back at me. He's like, why would you do that? You're not allowed to touch that money until you're 60. I'm like, why is that a problem? He's like, the world's going to be uninhabitable by then. I'm like, fuck. Climate change? Really, Dad? I'm trying to share good news with you. I had to withdraw the money, penalties and all. He wasn't wrong. It's weird debating climate change because it shouldn't be up for debate, but climate change deniers, I don't know if you've noticed this, they're like exceptionally like well-read. They're very well misinformed. Like they have a lot of facts. I'm not proud of this. I got into a climate change debate with a denier recently and lost the debate. I lost the debate handedly. I didn't have a chance. He kicked it off. He's like, why do you think that climate change is occurring? I'm like, well, look at all the facts. Look at all the things happening in the world. There's a drought in Arizona. Sea levels are rising in Miami. He's like, Will, which is it? More or less water? Do you guys have anything for that? Because I fucking didn't. I panicked. I'm like, we're running out of water, buddy. He's like, where's the water going? Is it going to space? I'm like, don't patronize me. Don't be ridiculous. The water can't go to space. He's like, well, where'd it go? I'm like, nowhere. I guess we have it. He's like, yeah, the water went from Arizona to Miami. I'm like, oh, they'll move. It's going to be fine. I threw up a Hail Mary after that, though. I threw up a Hail Mary. I'm like, well, what about all the hurricanes in Miami? He's like, what about hurricanes? We've always had those. I'm like, this last hurricane in Miami destroyed more houses than ever. He goes, we have more houses than ever. That's an undeniable point. I have nothing for that. Yeah, I put that money right back in the Roth IRA, okay? No one's dying of climate change on my watch. One big political issue these days is abortion, obviously, right? As a white guy, I feel pretty compelled to tell you how I feel on the matter. We make the laws. It's important you know how we feel. I feel like the problem with abortion is that it's very subjective, right? Like, where is it a life? Where is it a clean abortion, right? Where is it murder? Where is it a clean abortion? It's a little arbitrary, right? Like, third trimester, is that a life? I don't know. First trimester, is that a clean abortion or is it murder? If a woman takes Plan B, is that murder? If I use a condom, is that murder? If I ask a woman if she wants to have sex with me and she says no, that's murder, okay? That's murder. As far as I'm concerned, I gave you this chance to bring another Jewish adult into this world. It's murder and it's anti-Semitic, okay? That's a 2-for-1. Kind of on that note, I don't like Sprm Banks. There's no good transition for that joke. Anyone ever donated sperm here? Right. You did? I like how fucking softly you put your hand up. No one can see that but me. You tried to donate sperm? What happened? You're like, I just couldn't get it up. I don't know. I don't know what it was. To be fair, I did go in hammered. I don't like sperm banks, though. I don't like sperm banks. I think they're unfair to women. I think they're a zero-sum game for women. Because if you're a woman, it's tough. If you go to a sperm bank to be artificially inseminated, it's a lose-lose situation. Because no matter whose sperm you select, half of your kid's genetics came from a guy who really needed $50. Like, really needed $50. I've never been so low on money, I'm like, yeah, I can bring a kid into the world. With whom I have no relationship. You're not going to find financially successful guys donating sperm. But pretty cool thing about sperm banks is that they are the last place on earth where you can still be racist. They are. I don't know how it works exactly, but I would imagine that when women go in there, the first question has got to be, so what kind? What kind are we going with today? She's like, do you have any Jews? I'm afraid this is the only bank they don't attend. This is... We haven't needed the money in years. We've never needed the money. Try Goldman Sachs. You're going to have more luck there. That's how Jews are born. They remove the Goldman from the sack, and they give it to you. That's Jewish conception. That's how it happens. Every time. I like being Jewish, though. My favorite thing is people say fun things to you. People say fun things to you when you're Jewish. I was telling a friend of mine recently that my ancestors came here from Eastern Europe. That's where they came to America from. And he immediately asked me, he's like, did your grandparents survive the Holocaust? Yeah, first one out of the gate, first question. I'm like, no, they actually left Germany before Hitler came to power. He's like, so they did survive the Holocaust. Like, what do you mean? He's like, they survived the Holocaust by never being a part of it at all. That's a fun way of looking at things, right? That'd be like if I was like, yeah, I'm actually a survivor of Hurricane Katrina. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. Yeah, it was 90 degrees, 0% humidity. It was a close call. It was a close call. I barely got out of there with my life. I am actually a 9/11 survivor, though. I was at Disneyland at the time. I was riding the Tower of Terror, which I also survived. Yeah, I survived all 3 towers on 9/11. It was a good time. Growing up Jewish, though, they teach you a lot about the Holocaust. One thing that they don't teach you that I've always wondered is, like, after the Holocaust, 1946 Germany, how long did it take until survivors, like, re-entered the workforce? Like, when did we seek out jobs again, right? Like, a coworker of mine, their dog died. They took 2 days off of work. I think you get 4 or 5 months off for a genocide. I think that's a reasonable amount of time. I need to know how those conversations went when they're like, hey, Jacob, we could really use you back at the office. It's like, well, I'm actually on extended leave of absence. Why? The Holocaust, that's why. You better get back to work. What are you going to do, sue me? Every good attorney in Germany is on an extended leave of absence. You're not going to find one attorney to get the job done. Alternatively, how to go for Jews trying to find a job. They probably couldn't make it out of the job interview. They're like, you seem like a great candidate, but we noticed that there's a huge gap in your resume. Care to explain yourself? What have you been doing the last 6 years? It's like, I'd rather not talk about it. Were you just sitting on your ass? I was on a religious retreat, okay? I was on a religious retreat. Bad news, he did not get the job. They do not hire people with visible tattoos. I'm the Jewish one, I can say the jokes. One thing they also teach you as a kid growing up Jewish is that Holocaust deniers are anti-Semitic. We've all heard that before, right? Like, generally people who deny the Holocaust are not huge fans of Jews. That never made any sense to me. Like, I like to think that I'm a logical guy. If hypothetically I dislike Jews, the last thing I'd ever deny would be the Holocaust. Are you kidding me? I'd be talking about it all the time. Like, what else? What better thing to talk about? That'd be like if you're a member of Al-Qaeda and you're like, oh, 9/11? Never happened. Never happened. We never hit 1 tower, much less 2. It just never happened. Like, if I hated Jews, I'd be having fun with it. I'd be having movie nights with my bigoted friends every week. Every week, like, hey guys, great news. For the 47th week in a row, we are watching The Boy in the Striped Pajamas again. It's gonna be a good time. If everybody shows up early, we may have time for The Pianist. I don't know. You guys get it now. All I'm trying to say is that if you hate Jews and you deny the Holocaust, the only thing you're really denying is yourself of a great time, okay? Go get that nostalgia. Go all in on the anti-Semitism. That is enough about the Holocaust. That is... I think 4 Holocaust jokes, one of which including Dahmer, that's probably enough. On a lighter note, I've been really bothered by targeted ads recently. Anyone else? Remember when targeted ads were useful? Targeted ads used to be useful. Like, they've always been creepy, but they were very useful. Like, you used to, like, run out of paper towel, and then I go on Instagram, and they're like, Brawny. I'm like, that's a useful ad. I don't know how you knew I needed paper towels, but I'm glad you did. Now targeted ads are teaching me things that I didn't even know were an issue in my life. right? Now I go on YouTube and they're like, do you have fibromyalgia? Do I have fibromyalgia? I'd like to know whether or not I have fibromyalgia. What does big tech know that I don't? I went to my doctor that day. I'm like, I think I have fibromyalgia. He's like, why? I'm like, the algorithm said that I have fibromyalgia. It's like, there's no test for it. I'm like, just give me the goddamn medication, all right? Yeah, I'm on fibromyalgia medication. Been on it for a while now. Next time you guys see me, be like, why is your head shaved? Are you on chemo? I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm on chemo. I misinterpreted a St. Jude's commercial, okay? That's what happened to me. I didn't get the message at all. The best ad that I've ever seen, though, by far, was I saw an advertisement for schizophrenia medication, and the main side effect of the schizophrenia medication was diarrhea. Pretty good trade-off, right? That's a fair trade-off. Lose schizophrenia, get diarrhea, not bad. Not bad. It did make me wonder, is there any diarrhea medication out there where the main side effect is schizophrenia, you think? You think that exists? You'd have to have pretty bad diarrhea to take that medication. You're on it. You're like, sure, my poops are solid now, but they talk to me. The worst ads out there are for sure porn ads, right? Yeah, no one can agree. It's filmed. No one wants to admit they watch porn. Everyone I don't even have a laptop, in fact. Porn ads are mean. I don't know who came up with this idea that you have to make fun of the person watching porn. I'm trying to mind my own business and jerk off in my apartment. I click on a video and an ad pops up like, are you tired of jerking off alone? Yes, obviously. This wasn't my first choice. You skip that, the next ad is like, do you want to fuck ugly women in your area? Not particularly, no. If I wanted to fuck ugly women, I wouldn't be jerking off alone right now, all right? I'd be doing that. Do they not know that they could advertise normal things? They could have regular ads. They could make it useful. Like, you need help cleaning up? Brawny. That would be useful. That would be a good ad. I don't like taking Ubers. The alternative is driving drunk, so I do it. I don't like taking Ubers because I don't like chatting with the driver. I had a pretty lousy ride the other week. I got into the guy's car. It was a 30-minute drive, and I could tell right out of the gate he wanted to chat. And I'm a nice guy, so I played ball. I'm like, what do you do for fun? He's like, I play World of Warcraft. I'm like, fuck. It's going to be a long 30 minutes. But I'm polite. I'm like, well, like, what do you like about World of Warcraft? Like, what does like a day in the realm look like? He's like, it's actually pretty cool. I played last night for about 8 hours, and for 8 hours, I collected wood. I was collecting wood for 8 hours. Then when I was tired in real life, I took the wood to an arrow maker in the game, and I traded that wood in for silver. But I want to become the arrow maker, because he can turn the wood into arrows and trade that in for gold. I want to be like that guy. Pretty pathetic, right? Not only do you play World of Warcraft, but you're poor in the video game. You're not even doing well in the realm. You're not even thriving. This poor guy is a Uber driver all day. He logs into World of Warcraft, and he's still a gig worker. It's inescapable. He's basically Uber Eats. It's just lumber instead of food. I was interested at that point. I'm like, why are you saving up all the silver? What are you trying to buy? He's like, I'm trying to buy a dragon. Like, why do you want a dragon? He's like, well, if you have a dragon in the game, you can charge people for rides. Like, you don't say. You don't say. One dead-end job wasn't enough for me. I had to create a new one on his laptop. I played World of Warcraft when I was 14. I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, I actually wasn't very cool. I was actually overweight throughout my entire childhood. At one point, I weighed as much as LeBron James, which is not as cool when you're 5'8" and Jewish. Not as cool at all. But I don't like telling people that I lost a lot of weight. Because every time you tell someone you lost weight, they'll always say the same thing. They're like, oh, I never would have guessed it. Like, yeah, that's the point of losing weight. If I told someone, like, yeah, I lost weight, and they're like, oh, I can see how you used to be a real fat fuck, I'd be like, oh, okay. I have to go to the gym right now. I don't like how this conversation's going at all. But I was not very cool growing up. I wasn't cool in high school. And looking back, I realized I was very gullible in high school. I was a virgin throughout high school. And my older brother, who was not a virgin in high school, one day when I was 16 years old, successfully convinced me that after sex, the girls eat the condom. Yeah, you guys are looking at me like it's not believable. He was very convincing, okay? He was very convincing. I had my reservations at first. I'm like, they don't eat the condom in porn. It's like, there is no condom in porn. I'm like, fuck. That's a good point. That's a very good point. He's like, and condoms expire. I'm like, well, if it expires, it's food, right? If it expires, it's food. That's the law of expirations. I'm a fat kid. I know my food. I know my expiration dates. I did not find out that that was a complete lie until 2 years later. My dad was driving me to college. He gave me the sex talk. Most parents give their kids a sex talk when they're what, like 12? My dad's a smart guy. He's like, I can wait 6 years on this one. I'll let Zach lose some weight, then I'll give him the sex talk. That's the correct order of operations. But I'm in the car with my dad. He's like, so how much do you know about sex? Quick pause. Weird way to start the sex talk with your kid, right? It sounded like one of those situations where it's like, you tell me what you know, and I'll tell you if it sounds right. Like, are you a virgin, Dad? Was I adopted? What's going on here? But he asked me, he's like, how much do you know about sex? I'm like, you don't need to worry about me, pal. I know all the basics. I know the girls eat the condom. It's like, they don't eat the condom. I'm like, well, I'm not eating the condom, okay? Someone's got to eat that condom. I'm not a fucking idiot, all right? I've watched porn. I know there's an expiration date. It's like, you are a fucking idiot. That's exactly what you are. Maybe I was lied to. I don't know. I am thankful, though, that I found that out from my dad, and I did not have to find that out organically. That'd be pretty tough, right? You lose your virginity with already awkward fashion, and then you have to be like, hey, are you gonna eat that? It's like, do you want me to eat it? I want you to want to eat it, okay? I'm not gonna make you eat it. I'm pretty sure that's a crime. Perhaps we could split it. I don't know. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, really. You guys have been amazing. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Tiny pony.